Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Tech. My name is Neda Maria Kaisumi, your host, and today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Jan Arve Haugan. Mr. Haugan is a seasoned executive with a distinguished career spanning several decades in the energy and industrial sectors. He began his professional journey at the Norwegian construction company Selmer before joining Norsk Hydro in 1991 as chief engineer for the Oseberg field development. During his tenure at Norsk Hydro, Mr. Haugan had various leadership roles, notably serving as the CEO of Qatalum in Qatar, one of the world's largest primary aluminium plants developed in a single phase. In 2011, he was appointed as president and CEO of Kværner ASA, leading the company until 2018, and subsequently he took on the role of CEO of Aker Energy, where he was instrumental in transferring Norway's oil and gas expertise to Ghana. More recently, Mr. Haugan has served as Chief Operating Officer and Deputy CEO at FREYR Battery, focusing on advancing clean battery technologies. His extensive experience underscores a commitment to integrating technological advancement and fostering sustainable practices across industries. Welcome to the show, Mr. Haugan.
Thanks a lot. I feel sorry. I seem to be too old, Neda, when you have this long introduction.
Well, this is just an honor to have you on the show with such a long experience, Mr. Haugan. Well, reflecting on your extensive career, how have you successfully led organizations through technological changes and ensured alignment with emerging technologies as well as pursuing for revenue?
Very good question. It's always a sort of dilemmas when you are become a leader, and obviously having had the privilege of being through, and in particular, as you said, quite a long career, first in Hydro and then later in the Aker family. I've always been sort of also challenged as a leader to not only look for improved revenue, because that's obviously important part, but they are, could you say, common denominator in my career has been to push technology and technology borders and limitations, and I think that there is at least here in Norway we do have a sort of group of people that are labeling themselves as technology optimists, and I feel that I'm one of those, and it's been an issue here to also identify good technological or technologists, experts that are able to take the next, could you say, front line on next steps. And I think I still would like to say that our experience in Norsk Hydro when we got the opportunity to explore the horizontal drilling and the thin oil layers at the Troll field, which is a huge gas field, and we were mandated by the Norwegian government to take that bold move. I think that was at least one example where we put together the right experts and we took the right decisions. And as you also indicated, I did also did some say advanced technology challenges when we were drilling in Ghana, which was at that time record ultra deep waters, closing up to 4,000 meters of water depth. So obviously when you are doing something like that, you need to make sure that you have the right technology experts hanging around you and then addressing the risks and the opportunities. So that's been part of my, could you say, experience.
That's fascinating insight that how you have been driven this with help of others and acting actually toward technological changes. While building on that, during your tenure at Qatalum, you faced the challenge of integrating advanced technologies into larger scale industrial operations. Could you share some of those key challenges on how you approach them?
Yeah, so first of all, I think the Qatalum experience, which I had from 2007 to 2011, first with a construction program and then as the operational and startup. Obviously, the key components of a big mega plant like aluminium production in the Middle East is based on known technology for each one of the steps, but you put them together in a new environment. So obviously this was a huge power plant which was producing, or a nameplate production capacity of 1350 megawatt at an ambient temperature of 52 up to 52 centigrades. So obviously, could you say technology-wise, the GE machines that we installed were put together in a production system that could handle the high heat. And then the next challenge was obviously, how do you do a startup in an environment where the operators are exposed to superheats, because the startup phase in the aluminium plant also exposed the operators for extremely high radiation heat. So we were down to limiting the operating period down to 11 minutes, and the remaining part of the hour in a cooling cabin. So we were trying to, and then you can imagine how many shift patterns you need to have in order to make sure that none of the operators were exposed to heat that they couldn't handle. So that was one typical example. And then thirdly, if I should say that it's probably not as much a technology challenge, but it's also a topic when you hire 1,500 new colleagues from around the globe, and you move most of them into Qatar, and you have to build housing, family housing. You make sure that they are settled in the location. I think one of the, could you say, challenges or dilemmas that I experienced was, how do you train experienced aluminium operators from different other aluminium plants and train them into our Qatalum way of doing it? So detraining and retraining and making sure that they follow the safety procedures in particular, but also the standard operating procedures for an aluminium plant at high modern technology was sort of, I would call it an opportunity, but also a challenge.
Wow, this is so much details to think about. It's so impressive how you could tackle all those challenges together. Shifting to your time at Kværner also, how did you approach adopting new technologies to keep the company competitive in the oil and gas sector?
Yeah, the Kværner experience, which actually took off or started in 2011. And I think, first of all, new technology was probably driven mainly by the customers, because when you are a EPC contractor, you more or less take a sort of the engineering description received from the client, and you put together a tender based on the bid documents, and then you win or you lose the contracts. But I would like to say that my own experience was probably more the technology within the EPC contract. The fact that we were continuously improving what we call benchmarking of performance. So it was a technology job to put together the best available data and put them into a data lake where you could start monitoring the performance. I think I sometimes compare this with sports, because when you are doing sports training, you need to practice on all the different parts of the sport, whether it's tennis or speed skating or cross country or downhill. You need to just practice. And we were able to put together information flow that was based on our experience. And then every time we then put in a new bid, we put in a new sort of stretch target. And that was the key driver for continuously improving our performance. And we always made some, could you say, how are we doing versus the plan that we had made, or are we behind or in front of the plan, whether it's time or cost or performance in any measure.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure that our audience can benefit this experience. Transitioning to your leadership at Aker Energy, how did you navigate the complexities of transferring Norway's technological expertise to Ghana's oil and gas industry?
Yeah, that's a good question, and to all my good friends in Ghana, I would first of all say that it was a tremendous experience to start working with the Ghanaian authorities and the suppliers industry. I was extremely impressed of what they were able to deliver, and when you start working in a foreign company like this, I had some different backgrounds, obviously from the Middle East, but also from other countries previously. But then when I came to Ghana, I was extremely impressed of what we could achieve. Obviously, when you are doing um, ultra deep water exploration drilling, based on the seismic surveys that you had done and the analysis that the subsurface experts had done, I think that we were highly optimistic. And but oil and gas production is always a little bit like this, that you suddenly realize that it's a superb sand down there, but there has never been any hydrocarbons here. So you are in a way lost. And I think in some locations in our exploration, we actually experienced that. And again, I have to share with you that, when you're doing exploration drilling, you're hunting for the big, big blocks, and in particular, when you are approaching ultra deep waters, you're obviously approaching the great, finds. But then when you find small volumes, it's not possible to develop those solutions because it's not commercially viable. And I think, coming back to my experience, then this was obviously disappointing for the authorities, and it was disappointing for us as well. But I think that with all the experience that we had, we did all our exploration drilling, 5 exploration drilling wells at ultra deep waters, together with the drilling operator Maersk and the local suppliers, and nobody got hurt. I was extremely impressed with that, and that, I think, is for me a sort of token of appreciation that we did what we should do, but obviously with the probability of less than 25% that you have hydrocarbons down there, it's also 75% that you don't find hydrocarbons.
Well, it's inspiring to hear how you facilitate the knowledge transferring and adopt technology in different regions. It's not that easy, definitely. Moving to your previous work at FREYR Battery, how have you leveraged artificial intelligence to enhance battery technologies and improve production processes?
Yeah, so thanks for referring to the FREYR experience. It was my first time in a startup company, and obviously I came in when we had just gotten listed on the New York Stock Exchange, and I took the role as chief operating officer, and in a way building up a startup company from internal. And I think the first thing we really did was obviously to connect to some of the best technology suppliers that we could find in the global market, and we put those global suppliers' different products into a production line with again a highly efficient production system with batteries that should meet the future demand. And referring a little bit to your reference to artificial intelligence, what I immediately saw when we put everything together, we need sort of a overbridging control system, and we were lucky to then start meeting with I think one of the better suppliers of this which was Siemens. And Siemens put together a pretty advanced control system where you connect all the different sensors and the signals that comes from. I think we talked about like 26 different sensors, and some of them had multiple signals coming in through a second, in order to monitor the performance of the battery, going from the fluid and from the raw materials and into a fixed battery coming out in the other end. And I think one of the most important parts of our control system and the artificial intelligence that we put together there was to collect all these data so that we could put together a passport for each battery, because that was a demand that were delivered by the EU standard, that each battery should have its own passport, and that we could document from the from the birth of the battery through the life of the battery. That was the thinking behind it.
Well, that's so fascinating, and I'm sure I was the witness of your leadership on this AI-driven innovation in FREYR Battery. It was really inspiring. On a more personal note, can you share any specific instances where AI has significantly influenced your professional decisions or shaped the strategic direction of your companies so far?
Yeah, I think I will go probably all the way back to, as I referred to, the technological steps that we were able to take when we, in the company that I then used to work for, which was Norsk Hydro Oil and Gas, we were allowed to do horizontal drilling in the thin oil layers at the gas field. And we didn't label that artificial intelligence. But, you know, we had these 3D goggles, and we were sort of standing in the middle of the reservoir. We had this cave, we call them the caves. And when you stood in the cave, you could, together with the subsurface experts, the geological experts, and the drillers, and also the oil-producing experts, that we could stand in those caves, and we had all the information at our goggles, 3D goggles, and we could pick up information from the different parts, and we could then agree how do we do the drilling. And then we could send signals directly to the drill rig, and the drill rig could turn the bits into the right reservoirs. And that was my first sort of experience with I would call it data-driven decision making. I just want to pick up all the way up to today, when I'm in a role as the chairman of one of the local energy transmitters, or what we call a district service operator, distribution service operator, and we are the third biggest in Norway. And obviously, when we are building up a new control system and upgrading the control system, we are continuously then also building a digital twin of the full. So we are talking about more than 300,000 meters or electrical meters that monitor the electricity transfer into all the consumers. And then everything is built in a 3D model, or sorry, a digital twin. And based on that, we can, with a much higher predictability, prepare for preventing maintenance, and in particular also find solutions to reconnect different supplies if we have typically what we are exposed to now, more extreme weather conditions. And obviously we, on the 17th of January, we had a very, very bad weather, and approximately 40,000 customers were actually out of power. But due to the fact that we had highly automated and digitalized control systems, we were able to reconnect very rapidly.
That's amazing, and that's a very good example as well. Thank you for sharing that. What are your views on responsible AI, and how do you think industries should address the ethical considerations surrounding its implementation?
Yeah, so my background from then the industry, and I see that in particular the competence of building correct data and accessible data and data that can be analyzed is obviously extremely important. But again, as a private person, obviously you are sort of scared about what is really the real data and what is fake data, and at least in a more social environment or political environment, you could easily be scared when you are reading and listening to information that comes in from different other countries. And obviously we are also gearing up for an election now, so in September in Norway. So I think it's extremely important, and if I should refer back to my industrial background, at least we have been sort of particularly important for us that we have subject matter experts that have the domain competence that can verify the results of machine learning and artificial intelligence logarithms that are giving you results. And how can you be able to do that when you are a private person and you read something on social media? That is it fake or is it correct data? Is it because we aren't subject matter experts that can verify the reality of the data that you see? So it's a sort of I could call it a scary situation if you see the capabilities of different other probably nations, I would say, if I listen to the latest information from Europe. This morning we had the results from German election. So.
Mm-hmm. You actually touched a very important perspective on AI and social media and how we can recognize what is right, what is wrong. Soon in Norway we will have elections, so it's interesting that how social media can impact actually by using AI. Expanding on that, in your opinion, what are the most promising applications of AI for social good, and how can industries collaborate to maximize these benefits?
That's an extremely wide question. We are in a situation where the opportunities are extremely wide. And I think that the generative AI is extremely important. And I hope that this is a hope then, that we in the future can be able to train on how we deal with artificial intelligence in such a way that it's giving us positive experience. And obviously I refer to my role as the chairman of the board of a distribution company, the grid company. And I'm sure that we need to change our competence in the company, but it's still going to be need for electricians and technicians and experts. But obviously, we are much better in predicting the situation than we have been before, and we will continue to be that. And I hope that that is exactly the same in other parts of the industry. And I see when I'm now working with the data centers, it's a tremendous, could you say, speed of improved capabilities on how you utilize the data capabilities going on. And that's why the infrastructure around data is also super important, like data centers and data communication channels.
Absolutely. AI can be definitely used in improving the infrastructure situation. Well, Jan Arve, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation, and your experience in leadership, energy sector, and role of AI provides so much value and inspiration. So hope that the audience also enjoy as well as me. Thank you so much for being with us today. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jan Arve Haugan.
Thanks a lot.